Morning, everyone. It's April 6th at 9 o'clock. We're going to call the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors to order. At this time, we'll have invocation by Tim Sack. Well, thank you very much. Everybody stand, please.
Thank you and good morning. It's a kind of a light atmosphere in here today. It doesn't feel like a Monday morning. Everybody seems kind of happy and jovial, and maybe it's because it's raining and everybody likes that, or the Badgers are in the finals and everybody likes that, but it just, it feels good in the room today, and I hope it continues as you have your meeting. My name is Tim Sackett, and I do the Transport for Christ Truckers Ministry at the truck stop at Exit 4. So if you ever see that red, white, and blue trailer sitting out there on the east side of the parking lot and you wonder who does that or what's in there, that's our work that we do at the truck stop. So with that, I'd like to lead us in prayer. Our Father in heaven, thank you for the refreshing that we have for today. As many spent the Easter weekend in church and honoring the resurrection of Jesus, it was refreshing for our souls. And today there's rain. People have prayed for rain and asked for it, and it's refreshing for our land, our lakes, rivers, gardens, everybody that anticipates springtime. So we just thank you for the refreshing that we have from you and for us. Lord, I pray that this refreshing, this atmosphere will help everybody in the room to realize that we have a nation that is a free people. We have the responsibility to be free, and the people of this room have a responsibility to lead the people that are free. And I just pray, Lord, that anyone here who is seeking answers, there's wisdom, there's some power in this room, there's the strength of the people and the strength of their leaders, and all of these come from your hands. In your hands are the strength and the power to raise up and to humble and to give strength to all. And for this day, we're glad for the decisions that are coming forward, and may the refreshing atmosphere carry on through this meeting. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you very much. Now we'll have a pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cindy, are we ready for roll call? Three members absent and excused. So at this time, we have the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented today. Supervisor Peavy, motion. Do I have a second? Supervisor Nelson, second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Discussion. Scott. Okay, we have a motion, second on the floor, no discussion. We'll vote on that then. That was all yeses. Thank you. At this time, we're open for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Anybody in the public that has any comment? Say it again. Is there anybody from the public that has any comment to things that are not on the agenda? Is there anybody from the public that has anything they want to talk about that's not on the agenda? Not seeing anybody, we will move forward. Thank you. Are you going to take the presentation?
Sure. Thank you,
We'll go on to
Mr. Chairman,
presentations.
members of the board. We have a couple of recognitions, presentations this morning. The very first one on the agenda is acknowledgement and recognition for two individuals in our community, two students actually. The first is Kylie Hightomet, and Kylie lives in River Falls, and she is the first place winner of the St. Croix County Conservation Speaking Contest. And Kylie is here this morning, and she's going to say a few words. And then we also would like to recognize Carly Hetrick, who is a fifth grader at St. Croix Central Middle School. And Carly took first place in her division for the poster contest. So they had contests both for speaking and for poster contests. And the theme is conservation and environmental concerns and issues, and the importance that plays in our community. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Alicia Miller, who is our environmental educator who works for the Resource Management Division, and she will introduce Kylie for us. So thanks, Alicia.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. As Pat said, I'm Alicia Miller, and I work for the Resource Management Division. And our mission is to promote sustainable land use management that protects and enhances the land and water resources of St. Croix County. And one of the ways that we do that is through our educational programs. And annually, we reach about 500 student contacts every year. We're getting to our busy season because snow has melted, so we can get back outside. And lots of our schools are asking for programs again this spring. Our Earth Day celebration is coming up. That's you may have seen the little flyer I handed out. It's a free family event, and this year's Recycling Magic is our theme, partly because we have a new recycling specialist. I thought I would promote recycling again, and we actually do have a magician coming. So if you have any grandkids or other family friends, come out and join us at Camp St. Croix. And we also have two local high schools, Hudson High School FFA and St. Croix Central FFA, are going to be competing in the Wisconsin Envirothon this year. And these are programs that are promoted by the Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Association, including the speaking contest and the poster contest. So our speaking contest and poster contest occurred in February, and as Pat said, we have Carly Hetrick from St. Croix Central Middle School with her poster. This year's poster theme was Local Heroes, Your Hardworking Pollinators. And so she took first place at our county level, and then as did Kylie, who will be coming up in a moment. They actually then went on to our area competition where they were, we have 8 counties in our area, and again, they took first place. And they went on to our state competition. At state, Kylie came in second place. So I'm very excited to introduce Kylie Hoytamt and to have her come up here and share her speech with you today. So Kylie, come on up. Oh yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Pronounce his last name. Zasky.
Claire's family is going on a fun family vacation to a Wisconsin campground. Claire is so excited to go fishing, swimming, and boating with her family. It was sure to be the best vacation. But as Claire's family approached the campground, a sign read, "This campground is closed until further notice. The lake is polluted." Could this possibly happen? What is Claire going to do? This is going to be the best trip ever. If we aren't careful with how we treat our water resources, this story could end up being your family vacation. 40% of America's rivers and 46% of America's lakes are too polluted for fishing, swimming, or any life under the sea, according to eSchoolToday.com. In Wisconsin, we have many beautiful lakes. People from all over come to see our lakes and rivers. But WisconsinLakes.org have found lakes and rivers in Wisconsin suffering from water pollution. 1.2 trillion gallons of raw sewage, stormwater, and industrial waste are dumped into U.S. waters annually. Also, factories often use a lot of water to process chemicals in Wisconsin. They use water to keep engines cool and for washing things away. The used wastewater is sometimes dumped into rivers or the ocean. It can be full of dangerous chemicals. Did you know that problem could easily be you? That's right, you. Save water. Fresh and clean water is a wonderful resource. Don't waste it. Take shorter showers. Ask your parents not to water the lawn. Make sure the toilet isn't running and don't leave the faucet running either. Don't use weed killer. Ask your parents if you can pull the weeds in the yard so they don't need to use it. Reduce, reuse, and recycle as much as possible. Scrape your plates clean into the trash and don't put grease into the kitchen drain. Always pick up your trash, especially when at the beach, lake, or river. Pet owners, listen up. When you clean after your pet, do you dump the waste in the street or storm sewer? Do you leave it to decay on the sidewalk or grass near the street? If so, you may be causing pollution or health problems. Pet waste carries diseases, which makes water unsafe for swimming or drinking. It could be washed into rivers and lakes, even the Great Lakes. CityMilwaukee.gov says to carry a pooper, scooper, or a plastic bag when you walk your dog. Make sure the toilet isn't running, and don't leave the faucet running either. Buy local food instead of those that have to be transported long distances. Instead of driving a car, walk, ride a bike, or carpool with your friends. This will make Wisconsin a better place to live. Now is the time to help stop water pollution in Wisconsin. Now, imagine this, going back to that original campsite and seeing not a closed, but a welcome sign. The lake is healthy and clean. You can make this happen if you respect Wisconsin's water resources. Truly, caring for our water supply will make camping in Wisconsin a pleasure that we can all enjoy forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Kylie. I need a new speechwriter, Kylie. Someone to work in communications, and are you just about done with school? And what could we hire you? Thank you very much. That was great. Good job. The next recognition is somewhat related, and it's to recognize the work of our recycling efforts in St. Croix County. And to speak to this, I'd like to introduce Bob Heisey and Megan Hines. Bob is our resource services manager, and Megan Hines is our recycling coordinator. Megan started with us last October, and our recycling program has received some recognition statewide, just like so many other programs that here at St. Croix County. And our recycling statistics are showing an increase in recycling, and I think it's in part due to our conscientious citizens in St. Croix County, but also the efforts of our some of our staff people that devote a lot of time and effort to this. So Bob and Megan, congratulations, keep up the good work, and feel free to say a few words.
Well, thank you for having us this morning. We're happy to be here. Just as Pat said, I've been here since October, so relatively new, kind of learning the ropes. Inherited a really strong program of recycling here in St. Croix County, a very environmentally conscious county, which is great to hear. The State Department of Natural Resources compiled earlier this year the data from 2013 comparing counties and their recycling efforts. And in 2013, in St. Croix County, in the municipalities that are in what we call our responsible unit, we have 26 municipalities in St. Croix County that are in our responsible unit. So not quite the whole county, but most of the county. 4,634 tons of recycling were collected in 2013, which was an increase of 23% over what was collected in 2012. And then this resulted in a per person recycling rate of about 123 pounds per person. And this average is about 5.5% better than counties of similar size across the state. So we're a little bit above the average of similar size counties. And I've recently been working on gathering all the data from 2014 from different municipalities and recycling haulers that work inside the county. And we've had a large increase in recycling again in 2014. I'm happy to report we've gathered 7,333 tons, which represents an increase of over 50% from 2013. And this rate then is 194 pounds per person. And the even better news is this recycling tonnage includes only items that we call Table 1 recyclables. So it's your plastics, your glass, your aluminum, tin, your cardboard and paper. It doesn't reflect other things that we recycle here in St. Croix County, such as electronics, appliances, tires, yard waste, automotive waste, etc. So it really is showing a strong reflection of how great this county is in recycling. And I want to thank the residents for making my job pretty easy. They're very environmentally conscious, and I look to continue growing the tradition of strong recycling here in St. Croix County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob
Thank you.
and Megan. The next item on your agenda, County Board members, is a recognition for our telecommunications division in emergency support services. The week of April 12th through the 18th of this year has been designated by our President and Congress as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and we thought it very appropriate to recognize the work of what has been deemed our the silent service in the proclamation. A lot of times we don't hear much about what goes on in the 911 center and the telecommunications division, but really they are the lifeline, the communications lifeline to our public safety emergency responders. And their work is critically important. This board has supported that division through the capital improvements that have been made over the past 2 years, both to the 911 center and also now to the Phase 2 infrastructure. kind of the bones of the system throughout the county in terms of our infrastructure and how those communications actually happen. So much of it is behind the scenes, but it's so critically important. And one missed call, one dropped call, one miscommunication can mean the difference between a successful response and one that is not so successful. We have a great group of dispatchers, and we'd like to call on Steve Takash and Terry Anderson. Steve is the interim Emergency Support Services Director, and Terry Anderson is the Director of the 911 Communications Center. So I'd like to call Steve and Terry to the podium and maybe say a few words about your dispatchers and how important they are. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Good morning, members of the county board. Some of you I see today for the first time in many years. It's good to be back home. I was here a number of years ago as your 911 director. I don't want to tell you how many years ago. I think, as Pat said, the role of the telecommunicators is somewhat the background role. To give you an idea, they handle tens of thousands of calls a year. Last week was not necessarily out of the ordinary, but it involved several high-speed chases, 2 fatal accidents, one particularly tragic, a number of medical calls, a number of traffic accidents, a number of fires, a number of what we call the routine things, just calls for assistance, medical, fire, law enforcement. So day in and day out, your public safety telecommunicators are doing the role that we don't recognize because they don't necessarily roll up with lights and siren. They're down there 24 hours a day handling the emergency calls that, as we know from being the fastest growing county in the state of Wisconsin, our population increases and proportionately our public safety response also increases. I'd also like to thank you for your support. I've only been here about 60 days and I walked into the middle of your multi-million-dollar Phase 2 upgrade. I was here almost at the beginning of dispatch when I started as a telecommunicator in 1979 and then served as your director here from 1981 to 1990. This is literally the first major upgrade to the entire telecommunications, emergency communication system in the 36-year history of dispatch. As kind of an outside observer while I was away for 20-some years in Washington, I kind of kept my finger on the pulse of things because it's also one of my hobbies. And I'm glad to see now the investment. And I appreciate your attention and focus on that area, your commitment, and your dollars. We'll work hard to keep your confidence. We're kind of going through the numbers. We spent the weekend and Friday kind of going through the numbers and trying to make some additional cuts to try to stay within the budget and make sure that we're using your tax dollars efficiently. So I'd like to thank you for that. I'll turn the podium over to the 911 coordinator, Terry Anderson. But thank you again for your support. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Good morning. I echo as well what Mr. Takash has said as well, that you guys have supported us and continue to support us, which is very grateful. I am grateful. The staff is grateful. In a day-to-day process, they're always handling the calls. It's normally not something that someone plans to call 911 on any given day, but it's not normally the best day they're having when they call 911 due to the emergency at hand. So I thank you again. I believe Mr. Supervisor Brinkman has the proclamation, or someone has the proclamation to read. And it's for the staff, the 911 telecommunicators that day in and day out handling the calls, go through the emotional roller coaster in dealing with these calls and go to the next call like nothing ever happened. So it's for them. They deserve it. And again, I thank you.
Supervisor Brinkman, Chair of Public Protection, will read the proclamation.
Proclamation for National Telecommunicators Week, April 12th through the 18th of 2015. Whereas the Congress of the United States and the President of the United States have established the second week of April as National Telecommunicators Week, and whereas a group of dedicated public safety telecommunicators serve the county of St. Croix, and whereas National Telecommunicators Week has been observed in the United States since 1991, and whereas the county of St. Croix considers the services of the public safety telecommunicators to be vital to the interest of our mission statement and strategic plan, and whereas public safety dispatchers are the single vital link to our law enforcement, fire, and EMS personnel by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety, and whereas the services of public safety telecommunicators is a silent service and their duties are seldom observed by the public, therefore, be it known that St. Croix County joins in honoring the telecommunicators whose diligence and professionalism help to keep our county and citizens safe.
Thank you, Andy. That was nice. No. Pat, you want to continue?
Yes, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. For those board members that have not been down to the 911 center, stop down sometime. And although you can't actually go into the 911 center, we do have a lot of glass windows, and you can stop in Steve's office. You can actually observe some of the dispatching that's going on. If you haven't been down there, it's worth a trip. Stop in and say hi to Steve and Terry and see how things work. The next item on the agenda, county board members, is also a recognition of the Victim Witness Office and the services that they provide day in and day out to victims of crime in St. Croix County. We're represented here this morning by Pam Bell Richard, who is the coordinator for the Victim Witness Office, and also Jessica McNamara, who works for Pam in that office. And over the past few years, we've had some trials that have been pretty tough on the community, and Pam and her staff really stepped up and helped and continues to help victims of crime in St. Croix County. So it's a valuable service, and the week of April 19th through the 25th has been designated as National Crime Victims' Rights Week. So I'd like to reintroduce Pam and Jessica to the board, and then also call on Supervisor Brinkman as well, after you say a few words, Pam, to read the proclamation that's in your packet. And I have a copy here, Andy. So Pam and Jessica.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, County Board. I'm just going to say a few words thanking you for your continued support for the Victim Witness Assistance Program on behalf of the St. Croix County DA's office and my staff that include Karen Winberg, Selena Peterson, and Jessica McNamara. You know, every day is different in our office. Victims don't choose to be part of the criminal justice system, but I think we're all safe to say that we're honored and humbled to provide the services that we do for our citizens in St. Croix County. It's a valuable program. And every year they designate a week to just recognize the services provided and the work that we do throughout the states. So that week is coming up, and I'm going to turn over to Jessica McNamara, who is new in our program. She started the beginning of January, and she's hit the ground running. And she has taken the lead on some of the activities for National Crime Victims' Rights Week. So before Andy reads the proclamation, Jessica maybe can just talk about a couple of things that are being planned for that week.
Good morning, everyone. So kind of just to start off the week, we're going to obviously have a display table out front that's going to have all of the information that we've been provided this year and information about our services for the office. The theme this year is Engaging Communities, Empowering Victims. And along with that, I thought it would be a really good idea, and Pam ordered bookmarks for us, and we are giving them out to all of the St. Croix County libraries. And along with that, we've all asked that the libraries put kind of a little display table together in the library with just different books that are related to different crimes. So domestic violence, sexual assault, fraud, and kind of put those together with the bookmarks to bring more awareness to community members. Another thing that we have gotten is donated trees on behalf of the Schaffhausen girls. They will be planted this summer at the Triangles Park in River Falls, and that was they were donated on behalf of Home Depot, and we were all very grateful that they kind of were just like, yep, we're gonna donate all 3. So that was really awesome. In addition to that, I believe we have information going up on the county Facebook page and on the county intranet site. So, oh, and we have the press release that will be going on and a letter to the editor. So, thank you.
As no one wants to sit here and listen to me read a full page of script. Therefore, I am going to head to the bottom of this. Board members, please note that the whole proclamation is in your packet today, and please do take the time to read it. But I'm going to get to the bottom here. Whereas National Crime Victims' Right Week is April 19th through the 25th of 2015, provides an opportunity for us to strive to reach the goal of justice for all by ensuring that all victims are afforded their legal rights and provided with assistance as they face financial, physical, and psychological impact of crime, and the St. Croix County Victim Witness Assistance Program is joining forces with victim service programs, criminal justice officials, and concerned citizens throughout St. Croix County, Wisconsin, and America to raise awareness about victims' rights and observe the 35th National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Now, therefore, I, Roger Larson, should I have said now for him, as chair of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim the week of April 19th through the 25th, 2015 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy, and Pam and Jessica, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pat. We'll move forward with the appointments, and I believe this local emergency planning committee, LEPC appointments, and Supervisor Brinkman, I hate to call on you again, but you're part of that committee. And we need a motion to approve this, the appointments to the LEPC committee.
I so move. Whereas.
And I have a second from Supervisor Nelson. Is there any discussion on this? Supervisor Arkadoff.
I just have a curious question, because I don't know everybody on the list and where they're from. Just wondering how much of the northeastern section of St. Croix County is being recognized as being involved in this. I mean, I see Woodville, but just out of total curiosity, I was wondering if there is representation from that area of the county.
Northeastern part.
Right? Yeah.
I don't have an answer for that, and I don't, Andy probably doesn't, just Supervisor Brinkman either, but I can find out for you, Supervisor Arkadoff.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, I'll do that. Supervisor Brinkman.
Chairman, if I could briefly, this is a reconstituted program where we have switched from how the LEPC used to define its members. Certainly, I believe moving forward, this could be fluid and we could look at changes of that type nature. But this is an initial one of the new way of doing it. The LEPC used to be completely different group, and we've made some changes to it to make it more, I don't know, up to date. But I will certainly take that back to the people for you and say, hey, where's the people from Forest on here?
We need a second from Supervisor Nelson. Now, is there any further discussion? No further discussion, we'll vote now. And that was all yes, and members present. Thank you. There are no other appointments.
Right, no other
So-
appointments this morning.
So now we move down to the county administrator's report for finances.
Right, I'd like to call on Assistant Finance Director Bob Middett. You had a monthly report in your packet through the end of February, expenditures and revenues, and I don't know if there's any questions at this point. It's early in the year in terms of monthly financial reporting, but if you have questions, Bob is here to try to address anything that you might have. Thank you, Bob.
Well, let me just start out first. Supervisor Osmus had asked about fund balance, and it's a more complicated matter than one would think to calculate it, because the division of it into its different components is done at the time of our audit. At this point, comparing the total fund balance at the end of 13 to the total fund balance at the end of 14, it's about $1 million higher at $22,826,304. That difference is, once we get the $1 million transfer to fund the health center on an interim basis, we'll bring it right back down to about equal to what the 2013 fund balance is. But I don't have a breakdown on how much of it is unassigned versus assigned versus committed versus restricted or non-spendable. But I suspect they're all pretty much about the same.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Moving on to the financial reports, we've made a few changes to the report. A lot of cleanup. Some of the captions were changed, and there's more changes actually that I want to put in place. They're not quite ready to roll out yet. One of the things that we're going to do is try to come up with a fund balance report that can be presented from time to time. I don't know that it'll be an every month report, but quarterly at least. The other thing that's changing in here is we show some of the capital project funds, and I'm trying to design a new report that will provide a more comprehensive view of what's going on with those funds. They tend to operate not on a calendar year basis, but they're funded from bond proceeds, for instance, or things like that have a multi-year life to them. And so I'm trying to incorporate that into some reporting, and you'll be seeing that down the road as well. We have set up a new fund balance, a new fund for the pay for performance, and entries have been made to that in March, but the report you have in front of you is for February, so it doesn't reflect any of that yet. You'll see it next month. And we're still actually in the process of sorting out the precise amount of expenditures that have been made over the years on P4P. But we'll get that worked out, and you'll see that reflected in this new fund, and so you'll see the fund balance. It'll automatically be considered assigned, so it'll be there for you. You'll also, in connection with that, next month, I would anticipate you'll be asked to approve some budget amendments that would fund the new P4P fund with dollars that will be reflected at the end of 14 when the audit is completed. Those dollars will be reflected as assigned fund balance, and so then you'll be asked to take that assigned fund balance and appropriate it as additional budget for 15. That was all I have, unless if there are any questions. In terms of the various departments, you know, we're early in the year. Most of the differences are the result of timing differences. I guess I'd point out, I think the county treasurer is showing as over budget. That too is timing because of extra help brought in during January and I think some of February. Otherwise, prepayments, you know, IT had some prepaid maintenance contracts and so on. That's also reflected in there.
Supervisor Hosnes has a question.
Bob, under the 2015 capital listing here under government center renovations, it's got the finance total of $500,000. That $500,000 is the software package, is that correct?
Correct. That's the software package. This report, I would anticipate you won't be getting it anymore once we get that more comprehensive capital project reporting in place.
Thank you.
And we'll get some of this stuff cleaned up. I apologize, that's just not correct. So.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Bob? Judy?
Yeah, I just want to verify, because I know at last meeting I had asked for a cumulative P4P since it started up to now. Is that what we're going to be getting in May, or are you just going to be doing it from now on? Because I would like to know the history also.
Yes, what you'll be getting will be a comprehensive from the inception of the
Okay.
P4P, yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Trying to work out what those exact amounts are, and the cumulative unspent P4P dollars will be presented. That's the number that will be shown as assigned fund balance at the end of 14 and amended into that fund's budget in 15.
Thank you.
Supervisor Babbitt.
Bob, I just was curious about when I looked at Fund 702 and 703 for risk management. Can you tell us anything about why we've spent a considerable amount of the year's budget in the first 2 months for risk management?
Yes, those are premiums that are paid in advance at the beginning of the year for the insurance.
Sorry, Bob, if I could just ask a follow-up quickly. Insurance of what form again? I'm sorry, but
702 and 703 are our liability insurance and our workers' comp insurance. So it's premiums that are paid to WMIC.
Yes. Supervisor Hanson.
I might be splitting hairs, but does that mean that we're paying our premium for over $500,000 coverage on our self-insurance before we have voted to extend self-insurance?
We are currently self-insured, so there's no lapse. I mean, the resolution that we have on the agenda today is to reaffirm the self-funding for another 3-year period. So we're still self-insured. There's no gap. Yep.
Any other questions?
Can I-
Super,
This is on something, I would just like to thank the Finance Department, because I know we ask a lot of questions. A lot of times you have to do a lot of extra work, and right now you're understaffed. So I appreciate your patience and your ability and your talents. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you're entitled to all the questions you want to ask, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We'll move on to, you don't have anything else? No, that's it. Okay. We have a resolution authorizing St. Croix Community Development Department to apply for a 2015 lake planning grant. I'll turn this over to Supervisor Ring. I should look for a motion on this first.
Yeah, I so move to adopt, we're in the lake planning grant? Okay. Yeah, if this,
Second from Supervisor Schottner.
thank you. All right. Oh, okay, just a little background on this.
Yes, please.
As, this is just a revised resolution, and it's just taking the grant for these lake planning grants has already been approved by DNR, but there was some detail from a DNR standpoint that they wanted to see, and as is explained in the packet, there's a list of about 4 bullets about how the funding would be administered that was not included in the original resolution, and this fixes that. So that's why we have to act again.
Okay. Are there any questions on this resolution being the revised? If there are no questions, we have a motion and a second to approve. If there's no questions, we'll vote at this time. And all present voted yes. Thank you. We'll move on to the next resolution, authorizing the St. Croix County Community Development Department to apply for a 2015 I'm in the wrong area here. The resolution authorizing application for grant funding to renovate and develop the St. Croix County Parks facilities.
I'll make a motion to bring it to the floor.
Okay, Supervisor Osnes made a motion. Do I have a second? Supervisor Schottner, second. We're open for discussion. I think Agnes is looking.
Background on this? So.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a resolution authorizing the application of grant funds to renovate and redevelop St. Croix County park facilities. So we have an outdoor recreation plan. We have, which has plans for all our parks. And as part of the capital improvements plan, which was adopted by this board, we're looking at applying for money, to be able to apply for money to make some of these improvements. That's what this resolution authorizes us to make those grant applications. We have budgeted a certain amount of money this year. I believe it's $35,000 this year for park improvements. I think the background information also says that according to our capital improvement plan, we're looking to set aside money again next year. But what this does is allows us to apply for money at I think it's a 0.5%. So if we put 35, we get 70,000. And if we do it again this year, then that doubles the amount. So what this allows us to seek that funding to make those much needed improvements in the park. I think some of the background you've heard before in our park and community development plan, there is a lot of use. The parks have been around. I believe it talks about it's about 36 years, 40 years. So we've made a big investment. There's more improvements that are needed, and this is just a vehicle to help us do that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? If there's no questions, we'll vote on this resolution at this time. And all yeses for everybody present. Thank you. Move on to our next resolution we have is the resolution opposing change in the governor's 2015-2017 state budget proposal regarding Aging Disability Resource Center, Family Care, and IRIS, including respect to one self-direct programming and senior care. Yeah, let's see. That would come out of Supervisor Babbitt. Are you going to make a motion to that effect?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the board fully support the resolution. The resolution came through the HHS board at last month's meeting, and Supervisor Osnes as well has seen this coming through Council on Aging and ADRC.
Need a second? Supervisor Osnes second that. So is there discussion on this resolution coming forward? Supervisor Berkey.
I would say that, just for information, several of us went up to the budget discussions, the budget hearing in Rice Lake a couple of weeks ago, and these matters regarding senior care, the ADRC matters, and IRIS were predominantly those areas that people were making testimony. And I understand that both Supervisor Osnes and Fred Johnson are going to the WCA meeting this week to get some feedback on what the status is. There's some confusion as to whether or not the senior care program and possibly others are going to be restored to what we currently have. So we look forward to that report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another Supervisor Babbitt.
I appreciate Supervisor Berkey's comments, and I would certainly echo those. This is a very big issue, and one that is getting an awful lot of attention statewide. And St. Croix County has done a great job over the years of providing services to our aging and disabled population, and this would be a very significant setback to what St. Croix has done, but what's been done statewide. I think there are many aspects of these programs that are unique to Wisconsin, where Wisconsin's been a leader, and I think it's fair to say that impacting the programs in the way that is proposed in the governor's budget would be a very significant negative for many St. Croix County residents and many thousands of state residents as well. So I would certainly support the motion.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Osnes.
Mr. Chair, we've got somebody here I think
Yeah, I
would
know.
like to address that.
Yep. We have somebody from the public that wants to speak on this subject, George Sasky. Step forward to the podium, and we'd probably like to usually have a limit on these 3 to 5 minutes.
It's a good idea, Mr. Chairman, because on this topic, I can talk for a very long time.
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is George Zaski. I am a resident of St. Croix County. I thank you for the opportunity to speak. This is not an administrative change. I am up to my neck in these issues. I'm an attorney. I practice some elder law. I'm also a father of a 17-and-a-half-year-old who I was expecting to sign up for IRIS this summer. You cannot imagine the shock and dismay that I felt at the idea of losing this program. Now, I know people have said that, oh, IRIS isn't going away, it's going to be rolled in. There's been no information. We were blindsided by this, completely blindsided, and it's policy. There's no budget, fiscal budget notes that are associated with this in terms of saving money. So I've told you that I'm an attorney who practices elder law. I'm a parent of a child with an intellectual disability who I want to be in the community here in St. Croix County. I'm also on the board of Bridge for Community Life, which deals with disability issues here in this county, in our region. I've been on that board for over 7 years. I know a lot about that area, trying to get employment in the community. I'm also a member of the council for the ADRC, and I've worked with Dave, I've worked with Paulette, Brad, and it's an amazing group of people that are on that committee. And I don't know if anybody is really familiar with this budget, but digging down in it, and it's 1,800 pages, on page 661, line 9, there's a line that basically says the statute 46.2825 is repealed. One line, and that takes away our committee. Now, I brought up of what this committee does, and like I said, I can talk about different topics, but this is more broadly for the people of St. Croix County. One of the things that this committee does is identify any gaps in the availability of services, living arrangements, and community resources needed by older persons, persons with physical or developmental disabilities, and develop strategies to build capacity to provide those services, living arrangements, and community resources in the committee's region. Why would you eliminate a group that wants to do that? A local group. I have heard repeatedly, because I was there all day at Rice Lake listening to testimony. I gave testimony. I was all day in Madison for Disability Advocacy Day. There are no answers. I have open record requests into DHS. I have open record requests into the Department of Administration. It has been well over 30 days, business days, and I have heard nothing. Nobody's given us any information. These are sweeping changes. They keep trying to come out of statements out of DHS saying this is just administrative. We want to put an HMO over everything and everything will run the same. Then explain to me, and nobody has, why you want to eliminate the advisory council. We have, I don't know, Dave, did I miss something in our meetings where we have budget authority for anything? I haven't seen it. We don't. I've been to some senior centers. I mean, we're trying to help people in our local community. I was in a meeting where we were looking at curb cuts for people who are concerned that maybe our curb cuts weren't meeting ADA requirements, and found out that in fact they didn't. So some of them had to be redone. This is, I don't know how a large HMO is gonna be aware of these sorts of things. And they're asking to eliminate this. So all we're asking for, we know there needs to be changes. Nobody knows better than we do because we live with it every day, is pull this stuff out of the budget, get together and meet with everybody at the table. I don't know why that is such an unbelievably challenging concept to accept. Because I look at this and comments coming out of DHS also say that DHS needs statutory authority to be able to create a plan. And I have looked, I have not found anything that requires DHS to have statutory authority to create a plan, maybe to implement a plan, but certainly not to get together and come up with a proposal with everybody at the table. As I said, I can talk on this topic for a very long time in a number of different issues, but I really strongly encourage you to support this resolution, pull these changes out. There are people who want to work to make this better for people in our community. I know I can create a pretty safe cocoon for my son. I have the skills, I probably have the resources, but I don't want a cocoon for him. I want him in his neighborhood. I want him walking down the streets. I want him interacting with you. I don't want him isolated. And I've seen what some of this has been done in other states where they moved it into Texas, into New York, and it's not pretty. So please, consider it. This is a system, stating the obvious. This may be a system that you might use for your elderly parents or your children might use for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zaski. Appreciate that. Any further discussion on Supervisor Osnes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make an amendment, if I may. And add it to line 59, which would state, whereas on March 20th, 2014, the Council on Aging and Disabilities, which is the governing board of our ADRC, met and approved the resolution unanimously. It is will go to show that the Council on Aging and the HHS board both support the resolution as it moves forward.
Do I have a second to that amendment? Supervisor Babbitt seconds that. And any discussion on the amendment to the resolution? Does anybody want that amendment read back so they understand it? If not, Cindy, are we ready to vote on the amendment? This is the vote on the amendment to the resolution. We can vote at this time. And that's all yeses with members present.
I want to have Fred come up. I have a question for him.
This for Fred?
Yeah. Fred, I'm wondering if you could come up.
There's a question for Fred Johnson, if he'd come to the podium, please.
Fred, as you're coming up, as you know, when the Council on Aging and Disabilities met back on the 20th, we had concerns both with the physical impact, and possible reduction in staff if this would go through as the governor would like it to. I was wondering if you could address that, please.
Yes, in the resolution, I'm looking specifically on page 36. It's on page 35 and 36. It talks about allowing the Department of Health Services, line 39 and line 40, allows the Department of Health Services to contract with a private entity for all or some of the resource center services. And because we don't know at this point what that might include, we took a look at the 2015 budget and broke that into the total budgeted revenue is $1,077,366. The first portion of that money is the $953,247. That's for direct services, and then the administrative costs are $124,119. The reason we broke that out is the administrative costs are part of our claiming process for services that the ADRC provides, and the administrative cost covers agency overhead. So likely you're not to see any budgetary reductions dollar for dollar in that particular line if this budget goes through, because a portion of a variety of services go to recoup that revenue. But we could see as much as $953,000 go away in direct services in our county budget. And that does not include any potential unemployment claims for those that currently work in the Aging and Disability Resource Center. Does that answer the question, Supervisor?
Yes, it does. And then back on line 28 and 29, where we're talking about the $376,000 that St. Croix County pays to the state every year. I'm wondering if you could give us a brief history on that for the new members that are on the board.
When St. Croix County made the decision to participate in long-term care reform, there was a buy-down of local tax levy or local support down to the $376,000 number that Vice Chair Osnes has referenced. That number used to be closer to $2.4, $2.5 million to match local services for individuals. And when the decision was made to move to a long-term care district like we have right now, there were two things that were important that I think might warrant some discussion or at least reference today. First, we were able to, over a period of time, eliminate wait lists, and that's something that's reported monthly to the council, that we no longer have wait lists for any long-term care services. The second piece is going from that roughly $2.4 or $2.5 million local match down to $376,005, which we still pay today. And that is our local contribution to support the districts as they stand right now.
Very good, thank you. And thank you, and Brad, you're hiding behind Ron over there. Thank you and your entire staff for all the work that you folks do with our seniors and folks with disabilities through the ADRC. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this resolution? The resolution that we have in front of us now for a vote is the resolution opposing changes in the governor's 2015-2017 state budget, proposing regarding aging, disability resources, family care, and IRIS, including Respect One Self-Direct programming and senior care, and the amendment that we voted on. I won't read the amendment. Is everybody aware of all that? Are we ready to vote? No more questions? We're ready to vote, then everybody can vote on that. That passed unanimous, all yeses with supervisors present. Thank you. The next one is the resolution opposing state budget proposal to transition property assessment from municipal to county responsibility. And I will, Supervisor Shaw made a motion, Supervisor Ring second, and we'll have discussions. So I'll turn it over to Supervisor Ring, the chair of that committee.
Okay, this resolution comes on the recommendation of the Community Development Committee, and it's the resolution opposing state budget proposal to transition property assessment from municipal to county responsibility. As outlined in the background information, there right now the assessments are done locally, and this would transfer that responsibility to the county. There's some cost implications for doing that. This was a subject that was raised, we had some background provided by the Wisconsin Counties Association. And this has been attempted in the past, and there may be some merit. I think it outlines there's maybe some reasons for reform, but the way that it is proposed, there was no input on the part of assessors and local units of government throughout the state in making this recommendation. I know it was brought by Supervisor Berkey. Maybe she would like to add more comments.
I would point out that in the packet also is the resolution that passed at the town of Troy. Basically, in addition to the concerns that Supervisor Agnes Ring mentions, there is the loss potentially of local control. Also, if you think about the Board of Review, when an individual taxpayer has an opportunity to come to voice concerns, they come to their local municipal Board of Review. This would change significantly as well. So there are a number of reasons why we need to oppose changing the assessors to the county level. And I suggest that if you haven't read through the town resolution, there's some more specific details about that. So thank you for your support for the resolution, as hopefully then we'll forward it on down to the state legislators and to the governor.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Ray. So we have a motion on the floor and a second. If there's no further discussion on the resolution opposing state budget proposal, transition property assessment from municipality to county responsibility, if there's no further discussion, we'll vote at this time. And that passed unanimous with supervisors present. Thank you. We have another resolution in front of us authorizing continuation of self-insured workman's comp program. Do I have a motion from Supervisor Schotner, seconded by Supervisor Berkey? Now we have discussion.
I think I can give a little bit of history on this. As it says in the summary, this is a continuation that needs to be reaffirmed every 3 years. It's required by the state that we reaffirm that we're going to be basically self-insured for our benefits for every 3 years. So it's just a simple thing that has been going on and continuing it on into the future. If it's not approved, we're still covered for this year, but then next year we would have to find a way to compensate. But it's straightforward.
Any discussion, any questions? Supervisor? Okay, we have a motion and a second on it. Supervisor Hanson.
What amount of revenue do we need to hold in reserve to fund this program of being self-insured?
Kristen Ziliak, Risk Manager, maybe you could help out with that.
The state of Wisconsin doesn't give us a figure. We're self-insured for the first $550,000 of each individual claim, so you should at least be prepared to pay that much if you had a catastrophic loss. Our average work comp claims run about $200,000 a year in costs. Since my time here, actually, the county has never had a catastrophic claim that's exceeded that amount. The fund balances that we have, and this is related to on the financial report, the line item that Dr. Babbitt asked about, Fund 702 and 703. Those are the risk management funds that are used to pay for claims as they occur, which is another reason sometimes why those don't match up to the budget item or the amount budgeted, because those come in as they occur. We have, between the liability fund and the work comp fund, almost $2.3 million in reserves.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Kristen. If there are no other questions, I will repeat the resolution. We have a motion and a second on the floor for a resolution authorizing continuation of self-insured workers' compensation program. If there's no further discussion, we can vote at this time. And that was all yeses with members present. Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to the Rules and Bylaws report, and I believe I will call on Supervisor Schoberg. Okay. I want to get done by 11. Great.
Well, I am pleased to now provide the first summary and highlights of the activities of the subcommittee of the Administration Committee that was formed in order to reflect upon and discuss and pass judgment over, make changes, and basically beautify our bylaws. And it all started back in the administration committee, remember can was pushed down the road for a little bit from last April, and then the administration committee said, let's form a subcommittee, and they put me in charge of that. And it went okay, I think, for the most part, as long as you appreciated my sense of humor. So in November, the administration committee decided to form this subcommittee. The subcommittee had its first organization meeting on December 10th, 2014, and we think we had our last meeting on March 13th of 2015, and in between we had 4 other meetings, all of them exciting. You had to be there. Members included, the voting members were myself and Supervisor Kiesler and Berkey. And also participating were frequently our Chair, Roger Larson, Vice Chair Dave Osnes. Other members of the committee included Cindy Campbell, Pat Thompson, Scott Cox, John Allegro, Kristen Ziliak, Fred Johnson, Tim Ramberg, Gene Sprain, Tammy Funk, Bob Middett, Kathy Spott, and Ellen Denzer would make an appearance from time to time as well. Now, if I've overlooked some of you, I apologize, and please speak up when you want to claim ownership of a particular change. All department heads were invited to attend and to offer proposed amendments. And as I know, all you supervisors were invited to put forward any changes that you wanted to the subcommittee during the last several months. So today, we're not going to go through the bylaws line by line as much as you would like to. I will present, though, the highlights of the changes to Articles 1 and 3, so I'll be in charge of those two. Corporation Counsel will cover Articles 2 and 7. These are the new articles, not the old ones. And then our paralegal, Kathy Spott, will cover Articles 4 through 6. We got through things pretty quickly here this morning, so we might open up for more questions and comments even today than I was planning on. But I do ask that you hold your comments and questions to the end of all the presentations, just so that we can make it through. I'm hoping that our presentation will take 20 minutes to 30 minutes, but you never know. I'm already going kind of slowly here. We will address questions regarding the process at the end at least, but if you have other questions that are substantive or you've really meant to make an amendment to the bylaws but never did, I have 2 comments to make about that. First of all, you should have said something earlier, all right? You had your shot, but if you really are insistent on bringing something forward, come and visit us at the next administration committee meeting on April 15th. And if there's all sorts of stuff to be looking at, the administration committee automatically has a pour-over meeting for the following week. So that could be April 15th and April 22nd. It's our hope that at the May 5th meeting, the administration committee would have made any final changes, and this board will be able to approve the changes to the bylaws at that time. So at this time, the protocol that I would suggest, if you have your clean copy in front of you, you might make a number of little notes on the margins. I would be happy to also summarize my comments and put them together in a Word document that says, here's the 16 different things that I talked about regarding Article 1. I didn't have the time to get that type of a list prepared, so I'm just going to do a verbal showing of what I thought, after my ham dinner last night, I thought was something to bring to your attention. So here we go. So this begins the introduction. So if you have your clean copy in front of you or open, the first comment that I'd like to make is the introduction. We've added into the introduction, we basically took it from the strategic plan that we had in place, the second paragraph there that refers to our mission statement. And Supervisor Berkey thought it would be good to have it in place there. On to page 2. The comment, if you will, that I want to note here, and I have about 16 highlights of Article 1, fewer for Article 3. In the Section B for the role of the county board. So our role as the county board is to set the strategic mission and priorities. Also, to consider and act upon resolutions and ordinances, just as we did today. The former version just said approve, but now I think it's a little bit more comprehensive when we have those two active verbs, consider and act upon. And that's just an example of how in-depth the subcommittee went through every clause of the bylaws. So I think what you'll find is all the verbs have been reviewed, definitions added where necessary, so that this set of bylaws will be quite an improvement over what we had before. A new section there, also in that first paragraph of Section B, the county board selects the county administrator and monitors the county administrator's management and daily operations. So the county administrator, this is the bylaws now in effect with the county administrator form of government. And our job is to select Pat and to monitor his position. So that's what the county board does. Operations are really in charge or under the supervision of our county administrator. The next change is also on page 2. It's the Committee of the Whole, Section D. This used to be a complete separate article of the bylaws, but it all regards what the Board of Supervisors does. And so the Committee of the Whole from the old Article 3 is now incorporated into this Section D. But we didn't just stop there. We completely rewrote the whole thing because the old version of the Committee of the Whole really was not explained very well as to what its operation, what its duties and performances are expected to be. So if you look at the third paragraph, you'll see that there is guidelines as to when we call the Committee of the Whole, when is it generally needed? When do we operate it? It's generally involve issues of county-wide impact, but matters that are of utmost urgency should still be called by a special meeting. And matters just demanding further study should most appropriately be referred to a standing committee. Historically, committees of the whole are used by huge houses of government, such as the House of Representatives for the United States. And then they would go into a committee of the whole in order to bypass some of the procedures of the full House. It allows for a better working type of environment to engage and study various subjects. And that's kind of how we operated. So in the very next section, it talks about how we cause a committee of the whole to be formed. And it could have been done right at this meeting, where at the end of the session, we would decide to refer a matter to the committee of the whole. Or at any time, our chair or vice chair can call a committee of the whole meeting, as has kind of been our practice in the past. On the top of page 3, this is my 5th comment already, so we're making progress. The vice chair, under the old rules of the committee of the whole, is to offer up a report. Okay, so at the next following board meeting, following a committee of the whole, our vice chair should offer a report as to what the findings were, because it's now going to condense what the work group had, and it's going to come up with something concrete, hopefully that will be presented then to the listening audience of our constituents. Actions, though, the most common action that the committee of the whole should take is to refer a matter yet again to a standing committee to be evaluated. Page 4. When we looked at all the bylaws for various other counties, many of them would include their jurisdictions for the various districts. So what didn't used to be in our bylaws is now in Section E on page 4, where we list all the various districts, including, for easy reference for our citizens, the towns that various supervisors represent. Moving on, page 5. This section took a while. Before, all we had was a section dealing with vacancies. And now we're also covering absences. And so with a certain number of absences, and if you look at C, if there's 3 unexcused absences or 5 total in a 12-month period, then that matter of that person's supervisor's absence can be brought to the attention of the county chair, and perhaps the county board can take action. So absences, now we have kind of a stated expectation of attendance. Under 2, vacancies, we did have a policy on filling vacancies before, and now if a chair, let's say one of our supervisors has just moved out of the area, and now we have to fill that spot. If the chair comes up with more than one substitute, then it'll come back for all of us and an election will be conducted. You'll find that at 2B. The other thing that we wanted to discuss, and we did at the subcommittee level, is if a person is now elected to fill a supervisor's position, that person would also automatically fill that former supervisor's position on the standing committees. So as we look to fill a position, we would want to have someone that has an interest in that same standing committee too, but we thought that that would not be too big of a hurdle. Page 6, under the removal section, that's all new. Council Cox had a number of comments about this whole section here. Basically, for a supervisor to be removed, rather than placing in the statute and having that all read here, and then of course if they change the statute, then we'd have to change the bylaws. We just now have a cross-reference. But there is a new section, which is 3B, that talks about what happens when a supervisor is not showing up at any of the committee meetings. So there is cause then for the department head or for the committee chair to bring that also to the attention of the county board chair for consideration. So that's a new section, 3B. Another big change to our bylaws is instead of having all the per diem spelled out and the compensation rates, we're now just going to make a reference, and you'll find it under section I, that there's going to be just a reference from the bylaws to a standalone compensation per diem mileage and expense reimbursement. So that'll allow for easier definitions, easier adjustments than having to go through the whole bylaw changes. Now, of course, we're still mindful that compensation cannot be changed, especially to any of us serving during our term. Any of those still are restricted, and that's under statute, so we don't have to express that in the bylaws. Section K, this is my 15th comment, so we're making progress. Section K, there used to be a separate article of the bylaws, Article 7, that dealt with ad hoc committees. Now that's incorporated nicely into the bylaws here. My 16th comment regarding Article 1 is a statement as to why the Article 1 is so much shorter than it used to be. And you will not find the Code of Ethics anymore in the bylaws, because it doesn't need to be there really. That's a separate standalone document, and it can be changed from time to time by action of the board, but it doesn't necessarily have to be part of the bylaws. So the bylaws are more the operations and governance of the county board, and Code of Ethics is a separate issue, as is, we thought, the strategic plan. So the strategic plan, at least all the bylaws I've ever read in my career as a lawyer, I'm not finding strategic plans within bylaws. And so we've removed the strategic plan, and that's a separate standalone document as well. Since I'm here and I'm on a roll, and you can see the pace that I'm at, I won't stop and switch over to Article 2 yet, but we'll carry with me, and I'll make half as many comments now regarding Article 3. So Article 3 begins on your clean copy, page 12. Article 3 used to be Article 9 of your old bylaws, and so it's now in the order of county governance brought forward to Article 3, and it's titled Meetings of the County Board. Now, the first thing I'm going to say, I might get some cat calls from you, so I'm prepared. We're proposing that we don't take 2 months off every year, but instead this county Board of Supervisors meets each and every month. If there doesn't happen to be that much business for a particular month, we can always postpone it, and just the chair could say it's not necessary to meet that month. But as you know, we've historically not met in July and in February, and there's business of the county that continues during those months. And especially when there's perhaps important bonding issues or other things coming up, employee issues, we just thought it would be best that we do proceed to have a meeting scheduled each and every month of the year. So you can think about that one. A couple new sections were added, Section 3 and 4 of Section A. One is the orientation session, the other one's organization meeting. They just were not part of the prior bylaws, so we've added those so that any new county supervisor would know what to expect in order to get trained in. So that's there. Page 13, under agendas. And this is all new. So we all know kind of how agendas have been occurring, but I've been concerned that perhaps a chair who is not as favorably inclined to listen to what someone like me has to say, I wanted to find a way to force an item on an agenda. So supervisors, if you want to have an item placed on the agenda, now on your normal business agenda, starting with these bylaws, there'll be an item called future agenda items. When we get to that point, if you say, well, I really want to talk about X or Y, and if the chair says, fine, then you've won your battle. If the chair says, I don't think so, we're too busy, and I've heard that all before, then as long as one other supervisor supports you during the county board meeting, it will be placed on the agenda. So just like a motion, if you have a second, it will at least be placed on the agenda, okay? Now at the next meeting, of course, I don't know if it's going to be heard or just referred to the appropriate committee at the next meeting. So you're going to have a good story presented as for that agenda item that you might not think is going to be heard well. So let's just say that it's an item on some environmental issue, and I thought it was very important, and it's not getting the light of the day. At the next, as long as I get one of you to at least support my agenda item, it will be placed on the agenda item next time. At the next meeting, then, it would probably be most appropriate, and I would admit to this, to send it to the Community Development Committee. That's probably what would happen. But if I've already been there, done that, and they've already said no, then if I can get 2/3 of you agree to just, let's talk it out right now, and then we would be suspending the rules, then it can still be heard. So an unpopular agenda item that didn't go through the regular standing committee structure can still be heard by this board if at least 2/3 of you agree to suspend the rules. So that's one way of getting an item forced onto the agenda. The other way is what happens if it's in between meetings, that it's become apparent that I want to have an agenda item put on there. Well, you can contact the county board chair and say, I'd like this on there, and the county board chair has a certain period of time to say yes or no. If he says yes, then you're on. If he says no, then again, you have a certain period of time to get one other person to sign a petition to place it on. And there's a little bit of reporting requirement here so we can track, did you really ask, when did you ask, and have all those dates. So there's an email system that goes there too. So I'll kind of steal the thunder of what's about to come. The same type of process happens at the standing committee level too. But this is, now I'm talking about the full board meeting. So I would encourage you all to read carefully that section on page 13 under section C, item 1, where it says additional agenda items, and see if you're comfortable enough with that. Item 14, or excuse me, item 5 on page 14. Under the order of business on a county board meeting agenda, two things to remark about. Number one, you'll see a placeholder for future agenda items. But the other one that I'm going to talk about, let me just say that I've always appreciated the fine messages that we've received from our various ministerial staff, pastors in the community. However, we are a governmental entity, and there is such a thing as separation of church and state, and that was believed very strongly by our founding fathers. So the subcommittee did discuss at length whether we should continue with an invocation or remove it entirely or have something in between. And what we're proposing then is a moment of silence and reflection. And that's so as to avoid the perception that our county lacks a sense of inclusiveness for those of all faiths and even non-faiths. So that is now part of our proposal to change the bylaws. The next item to comment about was public comments. And here I think we've opened it up for the availability of our residents to come forward and make a discussion about any topic. And why we do limit the amount of time, if there's 6 or 7 people that want to speak on the same issue and they're all here, we're going to listen to them all. So in this regard, we used to have a little requirement in there that said, if you're a member of a group, then that one, pick out your spokesperson and that'll be it. But we anticipate that if anybody wants to come down to our county government center and speak to the board, they should have the right to do so, even if they are part of a group. So we've opened that up. Finally, on page 17, under section G, this is putting questions and voting. So let's say a supervisor had to leave the room and a vote was and did occur while that supervisor was absent. And if it was happening today and the decisions were made 14-0, then likely the county chair isn't going to demand that that person cast his vote or her vote. But if it's, for example, a tie, then the county chair can demand that that supervisor, upon being reseated, would have to cast their vote or abstain. You still don't have to cast a vote, and you also don't have to explain why you might choose to abstain. So that ends my comments about Articles 1 and 3. And now I'll invite Corporation Counsel Cox up.
Thank you. This is going to be almost as exciting as Roy's presentation, but probably more exciting than the game this evening. I guarantee that. And I noticed who didn't clap for Wisconsin earlier, but I won't say anything. Article 2 primarily deals with the chair and vice chair. I mean, that's what it deals with. And so the current rules really don't flesh out a lot about the role of the chair and the vice chair. So the primary changes in Article 2 are in Section C and Section D and E of the rules. The previous rule said that the chair opens each meeting of the county board at the place and time publicly noticed and calls the supervisors to order. So we didn't think that was very descriptive. And it only is really a partial description of what goes on. So rather than say that, we indicated that the county board chair acts, or excuse me, the county board chair sets the agenda, and that's pursuant to statute, and conducts the county board meetings in accordance with Article 3, meetings of the county board that was just covered by Roy. And one of our considerations when we were discussing the rules and bylaws is, what should I expect if I'm a chair? If I'm the chair of the board, what am I expected to do? What's my job description? So one of the things that a county board chair does in St. Croix County is it customarily attends, or in certain cases, it mandatorily attends meetings of organizations that are listed under Section C, Sub 2, and that would be A through K. So those would include the TIF Joint Review Board, by statute, the District Board of Appointment Committee of the Wisconsin Indian Head Technical College, the Wisconsin or West Wisconsin Workforce Development Board and County Boards Consortium, the LEPC. He's a chair or member of the Committee of the Whole. He's a member of one, not more than two, of the standing committees. He attends meetings with other municipal, or he or she attends meetings with municipal or other county officials, participates on the Hudson Area Intergovernmental Advisory Council, attends towns associations meetings, attends county association meetings, that was in our previous rules, or our current rules, and is a member of the Community Justice Collaborating Council. So, and then our rules go on to define what, in addition, does the board do besides attending all of these exciting meetings. He seeks candidates and makes recommendations for vacancies in districts. He appoints, with the approval of the county board, a qualified elector and resident of the supervisory district in the case of an absence or a vacancy. And importantly, he authorizes the attendance at non-member meetings for county board supervisors. He calls the committee of the meeting of the whole, but he may not run it. And importantly, during the organizational component of when there's a new board, he designates the convener of each committee so that each committee can become, can meet. He then works with the assistance of the county administrator, who sets the time, date, and meeting agenda with the convener, and submits them to the county clerk. Actually, it's the convener and the county administrator who set the agenda. He informs the convener that the convener is to conduct the initial meeting until a chair is elected. He acts as a voting member if a quorum is not otherwise present for a standing committee or for the Council on Aging and Disabilities. That is in our current rules. And he changes the dates of county board meetings if necessary. He makes discretionary additions to the county board agendas. He directs the clerk, and this is pursuant to, and clarified in the new statute, of what items are to appear in county board agendas. And he serves, and this will steal somebody's thunder, or maybe I'll cover it after I'm finished here. He serves as the 7th member of the administration committee. That's going to be a proposed change. There will now be 7 members of the administration committee. One of those members is to be the chair, and the 6 other members are chosen by the board through an election. He's also at the request of the county administrator, or in the absence of the county administrator, he makes himself or herself available to attend department head meetings. It was also important to spell out what the powers and duties of the vice chair. Now, in the statute, it says in the absence or the vacancy of the chair, the vice chair is to do is to perform all the duties of the chair. Well, the vice chair also has duties while the chair is not absent or not vacant. So we spell those out in section D. He customarily serves as the chair of the committee of the whole. Yeah, the vice chair, according to Roberts, assumes the chair when the chair vacantly or temporarily vacates their seat. He acts as a voting member, much like the chair. If a quorum is not otherwise present for a standing committee or for the Council on Aging and Disabilities. And probably his most important duty, he performs such other duties as may be reasonably assigned by the chair. So if, for example, Roger doesn't want to do something, he gives that exciting assignment to Dave. And our board rules also spell out in section E what happens when there's a permanent absence due to removal, resignation, or death. The board shall hold an election to fill the position within 60 days of the position becoming vacant. So during that 60-day time period, or up to 60 days, the vice chair fills in as the chair, but once the election occurs, we have a new chair. In the event that the position of vice chair is vacant due to removal, resignation, or death, likewise, the county board holds an election within 60 days. So those are the changes to the highlights of Article 2. And I also want to touch on, and Kathy Spott, who's really been the organized person throughout this, and my hat goes off to her. I want to talk about one aspect of Article 4 that I touched on. The composition of the standing committees, which includes the HHS Board, Admin Committee, CDC, Transportation, and Public Protection, they will all remain the same, and they're all considered county board committees, except the Admin Committee, which under these proposed rules will add 2 members. It was felt important, as in our discussions, that because the admin committee, or administration committee, deals with a wide range of impactful policy decisions, that it have a greater number of board members. So it was initially Supervisor Kiesler's recommendation. There was quite a bit of debate about it, but ultimately the committee decided that yes, there should be 7 members on the admin committee. Now, if these rules are adopted with that amendment, Upon that adoption, for example, if you approve that rule or this rule change in May, we anticipate on the agenda later on that there will be an election for the sixth person on the administration committee. And of course, according to the proposed rules, if they stay the way they are, the chair will automatically become the seventh member. So with that, I think I'm going to hand it off to Kathy Spott, who's going to talk a little bit more about the rest of the articles. Or perhaps I should touch on Article 7 so I don't have to get up and again. Article 7, there's one perhaps significant, maybe surprising change. And I'm referred to packet page 84, page 35. The rules currently say that the rules and bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 vote of the county board. Our proposed revision, or the committee's proposed revision, is the rules and bylaws can be amended by a majority vote of the supervisors present. And why would we do that? Because we think that's consistent with what the statute actually requires. Because there's a statute in the beginning of Chapter 59, which is the statute that covers counties, that says something to the effect, unless there's another statute that requires a supermajority vote, all other votes on resolutions and ordinances shall be by a majority vote of the quorum present. So, I'm going to hand it off to Kathy now.
Kathy, how long do you think it'll take you to do your presentation? 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, if everybody's comfortable with
straightforward.
that, we'll sit through it without a break then.
Okay. Articles 4, 5, and 6 are basically a rewrite of the current Article 4, 5, 6, and 8. In Article 4, there's basically just a minor title change, and Scott touched on the 5 to 7 member for the administration committee. The new Article 4 now brings in the HHS board to eliminate redundancy of the standing committee language. Currently, HHS is in Article 5, so all 5 standing committees are now together in one article. We've also, the way it is right now, there's common duties for all the committees, and they're listed under each committee. At this point, we've made a section just for the common duties or responsibilities. That's separate from individual committee duties. We've also added a contact committee for various organizations or other committees, and we've cross-referenced that in the new Article 5 and 6. All the committee duties have been reviewed and updated, and I think we're pretty firm on most of those, but we're open to suggestions. Article 5 is now the new other committees and governmental bodies. Board of Adjustment is currently in there, and it will remain there. We've removed some redundant language that is also contained in the Board of Adjustment rules and bylaws. It was, if they change, then we'd have to change the rules and bylaws language. So, but they remain there as one of the boards or committees. We brought in other county statutory committees, whether it's required by statute or allowed. And those meeting groups came from Articles 6 and 8, and they include the CJCC, Coordinated Services Team Coordinating Committee, Council on Aging and Disabilities, County Traffic Safety Commission, Land Information Advisory Council, and the LEPC. And Article 6 replaces the current Article 8, other appointments by the county administrator, and it's now called Organizations and Agencies with County Board Representation. We did expand on the compensation and expense reimbursement language from outside organizations. some outside organizations will pay the per diem or mileage, whereas others won't, but supervisors that attend are entitled to reimbursement from the county if that's not provided. So we've spelled that out a little bit better. There's 14 organizations, I believe, in Article 6. I think that's pretty much all of the changes for the new Article 4, 5, and 6. So with that, I think I'm under 5 minutes.
I would like to bring one item to your attention on page 22 of the new clean version. It is part of the standing committee section, so it's under Article 4. And it has to deal with this request made by one of our supervisors, Supervisor Nielsen. And he had asked, you know, when a department receives grant money, how should that be brought to the attention of the appropriate standing committee and all of this? And we tried to deal with this in a comprehensive way. So you'll see at Section H, Item 6, the language that we came up with is because it varies so much from department to department. It says now, in cooperation with the department head, the standing committee will establish a process for handling unbudgeted funding sources that exceed the approved budget. And so it's going to vary from transportation to community development, and each standing committee working with their various sources of expenses and funds and the like. I think we want to try to address Supervisor Nielsen's question there. And Supervisor Nielsen, though you're not here today, if you still have a concern about that issue, please bring it to the attention of the Administration Committee at its next meeting. So we got through this pretty quickly.
Excuse me,
Yes.
as a member of the committee,
Yes.
under the Standing Committee Public Protection, there was a change of 2 of the departments, and I think that should be brought up.
Yeah, the other change was the Administration Committee used to be the one that would be overseeing the district court and clerk of court. And now we've decided that that would be better served by being oversaw by the public protection. So that's a change being made. So beyond that, do any of you have questions regarding the process? And if you don't have questions about the process, I think it would be best if you just come up with your additional amendments and changes and bring them to the attention to the Administration Committee. The Administration Committee should be able to address those. I know that Ron and myself and Jill all served on the subcommittee, and thus we have quite a bit of in-depth experience in knowing what all the subcommittee members had to say about various issues. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks, and again, thank you very much to all the members of the subcommittee that spent lots of hours hashing through this stuff so that you would not have to. Thank you.
I also want to thank that subcommittee. They did a big job going through all the bylaws again, so thank you, everyone. Are there any other questions on the bylaws? If not,
I have a question.
Supervisor Ring.
So will this be discussed in a committee of the whole? Will all these changes, will we have the opportunity at the committee of the whole for discussion?
Yes, this will all be brought to the committee of the whole. It'll go to the admin first, then committee of the whole. And we should be able to discuss all this.
If I could speak to that issue.
Sure, Supervisor.
We thought, since much of the discussion has already occurred or had the opportunity to occur during the meetings of the subcommittee, that since there is an administration committee meeting already scheduled, and there's a extension of this administration committee if necessary, that please, the priority, the preferred course would be to bring the matter to the attention of the administration committee for full handling. However, as has been already stated, if that is just not going to be satisfactory, then we can spill over and add it to an agenda item for the committee of the whole too. So if necessary, yes, but not preferred. Okay.
Any other questions? No further questions?
Actually-
Cindy, do you have your report? Oh, excuse me. Supervisor Oxnard.
So, maybe I've been negligent because I have a lot of questions. Every single sticky note is grammatical errors, or you said one thing one place and another thing another place. And I started writing everything down, but when was I supposed to have done this? I didn't know that I was supposed to do it. I mean, I got this now. I didn't go to all the committee meetings. So is this all gonna, do you want a copy of my stuff, or should I talk to someone now, or should I wait till the admin meeting? What do you want me to do?
Thank you for expressing your concern. I would respectfully request that you get all of those little stickers to myself and Kathy Spott and Scott Cox, so we can go through those, make sure that they haven't already been addressed one way or the other, and then we could get them in good shape for handling at the next administration committee meeting. And if you want to be there to support any of your concerns, grammar changes can easily be made, but if you want to be present at the administration committee meeting, we'll be very receptive to hearing your concerns.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Cindy, do you have your report?
Okay, I just have a couple things to report on. You should have received notice of the St. Croix County Sheriff's Office 2015 recognition ceremony, which is scheduled for April 24th at the American Legion in Somerset. It was in your mailboxes or distributed on your desks. You also received a letter on your desks from the Wisconsin Counties Association talking about what are counties in a toolkit. They have provided me with just an envelope for the toolkit and a DVD. I'll talk with the chair on this. We can maybe show this at the next meeting, or if you're interested, I have it, or you could go to the website to get that information. And then last is tomorrow is the spring election, just as a reminder to you. So that's it.
Yes, Pat, go ahead.
Just two announcements. First of all, I'd like our Facilities Director, Jim Ellsbury, to introduce Brent Hunstead, who is our new Operations Manager in the Facilities Department. So you'll be seeing Brent around the facilities, so I thought it appropriate to introduce him to the board.
Good morning. Brent comes to us from Sacramento, California, where he's been managing a senior citizens community. Perfect timing for what we're doing here. So we're looking forward to that. He also has a depth of knowledge in facilities and also staff management. So Brent's here. He spent a year in Africa on a mission trip. So the day after Easter, sorry, Roy, listening to Losing Prayer is kind of just a little bit, I'm not ready for that one yet. So anyway, let me introduce Brent and to all of you, and if you have time, please introduce yourself to Brent after the meeting and take it from there.
Just want to say good morning and thank you very much for the opportunity to come serve St. Croix County. I look forward to the challenges and the excitement and all the diversity that this position entails, and I look forward to doing things with a level of excellence that's expected in my department. And thank you to Mr. Ellsbury and Human Resources. Look forward to meeting 98% of you in the near future. So I've only met the chairman and the administrator, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
Jim, secondly, the other announcement, if my records are correct, and I hope they are, I think one of our board members is celebrating a birthday today, so I'd like to congratulate and wish Supervisor Peavy happy birthday today. So who can sing? No, no singing, no
Happy
singing.
birthday, Bill.
All right, but happy birthday, Bill. You bet. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Schroeder.
I have a reminder and an announcement. This month, at the end of this month is Loyalty Days, which we had passed a resolution or a proclamation for. And the Loyalty Days Parade is on April 25th at 2 p.m. in Richmond. If you want to attend, there's also, there's a Facebook page that you can like. They're selling shirts and sweaters, and there's also an event for that night, dinner. Besides that, we're working on the pay for performance review of our county administrator, and if people want to submit goals for the administrator over the next year, this will actually be a full year that he will have time to work on stuff instead of being short-cycled and only having a few months. We have already thought of a couple goals focusing on intergovernmental or public perception, redeveloping the county website or developing a tourism site, where the public perception side, and the intergovernmental one was actually hosting a forum for all of the government bodies to attend, such as the chairs of all the school boards, the mayors and chairs of all the town boards, and then the chair of our board, and that way all of the governments can sit in one building and talk about what's going on and promote it as a public event, so we can have our issues publicly brought out across all government bodies, and hopefully start that as a way to build trust amongst everybody and get everybody on the same page. So if you have any other goals or ideas, we'll be open to suggestions. So that's all I got.
Any other announcements? Supervisor Babbitt.
Very simple and direct, go Badgers.
Okay. Supervisor Burke.
Don't forget the election tomorrow. Go vote.
Okay. Any other announcements then? Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.